Welcome to the Spa Girls podcast, the self-publishing podcast for authors. You're in the right place for the best writing, marketing and publishing advice, plus interviews with industry experts and best-selling authors. I'm Cheryl Phipps.
Shah Barrett.
I'm Wendy Vella.
And I'm Trudy J. You guys are all very soft. I felt like I was yelling when I said that just then.
That's because we're the gentle ones, Trudy.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
Or alternatively,
Everyone's saying
colds.
it.
Everyone behind my back that you're the gentle one.
There's a memo.
We know that. We know that's not true.
Anywho, back to the podcast.
Yes, the podcast. That's why we're
topic
here.
at hand.
Yeah.
So we are here today to talk about how to decide which of the publishing platforms is right for you. And this is a little bit of a discussion on wide versus exclusive, but also using aggregators or whether to go direct to the platforms, all those kinds of things, and what we do and how we do it, just so you can get an idea of some of the things that you need to think about when you're deciding on the different platforms. So I think the big one that we have to talk about first would be Amazon, right? Like that's the
I think so, yes.
That's
where they have the
big
bulk
behemoth.
of the publishing nailed down, don't they?
Yeah, we looked for numbers. It used to be, they had 80% of the market, but I think that's gone down now. I saw numbers between sort of 60 to 70% these days.
Yeah.
When we were sort of researching how much of the market they actually have, and it's different for books versus ebooks, and in the US only versus internationally and things like that. But they do, in general, have the lion's share of the market. They're still the big elephant in the room, I guess you'd say.
And I think that boils down to no matter what you decide to do with how many platforms you choose, you've got to choose Amazon as one of them.
Yeah, exactly. So you can choose to go how you do it. So you can
go wide or go with them exclusive.
So perhaps we should talk about that.
So going exclusive, you can choose to just stick with Amazon and go, and if you're going exclusive, you would always just go direct. You wouldn't use an aggregator for like Draft to Digital for something like that at all. But so exclusive to Amazon, you can do it for 90 days and test it out. And that's what we just did a workshop in the weekend, and that's what we recommend to people who are just starting out, who are not really sure what they're doing, dipping their toes in, just trying to get a sense of everything, figure out how it's all working, just to start. 90 days.
Maybe you don't have a lot of time, maybe you have another day job, and so it is just an easier way to ease yourself into self-publishing.
Just to clarify, when we say go direct, that means that you load the books up yourself and you fill in all the details on the loading and all that kind of thing.
Well, you get an Amazon account. You have an Amazon account that you're loading direct to, rather than having an account with an aggregator like Draft Digital and then going through there.
So aggregator meaning that's the other, you can load through that for all the other platforms if you choose to.
So now I've lost train of where we're at.
Amazon.
So Amazon.
We're on Amazon.
Go direct.
KDP. I mean, we could probably talk about KDP is obviously who you load through, but KU. So if you go exclusive with Amazon, so my historical books, I have exclusive with Amazon, whereas my contemporary books all go wide. So that means that they're in KU. And now that's, for those that don't know, it's like a subscription service to their readers. They can pay X amount of dollars, get so many books per month, and the author gets paid per page read. And I can't even remember what the amount is. It's quite small, but it does, adds up, and you are paid as the page readers read that month. So if they read half the book then you're paid that month, and then if they read the half the book 6 months later, then you're paid for that.
And there's two ways of getting paid. If you're exclusive to Amazon, it's through the KU and page reads, and also book sales, because you can still sell books if you're in it. I've seen a couple of people assume that if you're in KU, you still can't sell books. That's not true. You can.
And plus, it's only ebooks that we're talking about with the Kindle subscription. So you've got print books, you've got audio, all the other ways that you can sell a book.
So, and that's a really valid point that we're making before. So initially, you start out, you're beginner on self-publishing. In self-publishing, you go to Amazon for 90 days just to test things out. But then as Wendy said, for example, her historicals actually do really, really well in KU, and certain genres do really, really well in KU. So then it becomes, that might be a reason to stay in KU, that your particular book or your particular genre does really, really well in there. And it might be the place for you, and you just stay in KU, and that's absolutely fine. And
yeah, that's right. And you do hear a lot of people saying, I would never give Amazon all my power, and rah, rah, rah. And I get that 100%. But for me, probably 3/4 of my income comes from page reads. So it's not something that, it's something that I would take a massive dip. If I left KU now, I would take a massive dip. So for me, it works. I've got a lot of books, a lot of historical books. So not only having to update one site instead of all the others is handy too.
So there's definitely like, that's why I was in KU for a long time, because it's actually just easier. It's one place that you have to update things, one place that you have to change files and do the rest of it. And actually, apparently, according to Nat Connors, most urban fantasy authors are in KU. So
which is quite interesting, because I write cozy mysteries, and also that is a genre that does very well in KU, but my cozy mysteries are wide. However, I recently, a few months ago, put all my romance into KU, and that was purely a reason because of timing. And I'd had some ill health earlier in the year, and it just made sense that I could not deal with all of my books on a wide platform. So the romance went into KU, and then that just simplified my life. So I've just shown you how many reasons there are to go into KU, but that doesn't mean that that's what we think is perfect for everybody, because we don't.
Exactly. And there are, and another point would be that there's no kind of clear winner. Like, there's no one person saying KU is better and this is what you should all do, or wide is better and this is what you should do. It's up to the individual, and people do really, really well in KU, and they do really, really well wide, and it's just up to you.
No one shoe fits all. I don't think, people, you do hear people saying you should do this and you should do that, but really it's what suits you and what fits your books.
I mean, there's certain things that we talk about in self-publishing where we say this is probably a good thing to do, like get a really good cover and get edited or whatever. But the wide versus KU thing is still up in the air, and I think it's
very
up
personal,
to the individual.
Very personal to your situation.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so is there anything else we want to mention about Amazon, like in terms of being loading to I mean, they do have the biggest share of the market. They're price sensitive is actually the other thing. So you probably will have to have your books at a lower price, or I mean, times are changing in terms of the pricing.
I think
people are putting their prices higher, but it used to be that, like, for example, in KU, they were whale readers, and so they were reading lots and lots. Although then you would have the price higher, because then they would say, oh, look, it's this worth this, I'm going to get it in KU. So there's that.
I still think the one price point I would avoid is the $1.99 in Amazon, because you will only get 35% of the sale, as opposed to 70% if you're at $2.99 and above. So it's not worth putting it at that. If you're pricing a full size book, definitely don't do it below that.
I think there's a general feeling now too, because everything else in the world's going up. Why shouldn't our books, because it's actually costing us more as well, actually put those prices to a better level too. There's definitely that.
I do think probably there's a lot more books at $2.99 on Amazon than there are on the other platforms. Do we not think?
Absolutely. I think other platforms definitely create people that have an expectation to pay more on other platforms.
And I think now, as time has gone on, whereas before on Amazon there were a heck of a lot of 99-cent books, and there probably still are, but I think in relation to all of the books, it's not as huge as it used to be. Now, perma-free and 99 cents, you're really looking at for huge price promotions, aren't you, for promotions? And you're using them as a tool rather than, gosh, this is my first book, I can't possibly put it up for more than 99 cents because nobody knows me. It's also a strategy, but it's I don't think it's as important anymore that you use that price point for that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you a good episode to listen back on is our Kindle Trends episode with Nat Connors, as we've already mentioned that, and he talks about the pricing trends in that particular by subgenre. So have a look at that.
And actually, if we're talking about pricing, and you're wide, it's my understanding that you need to have everything the same price on all the platforms. So for example, if you're wide, you want to put it higher on Apple, you need to put it higher everywhere, not have 99 cents on Amazon and different.
No, I
Amazon
think
doesn't
Amazon,
like you
no,
to have a different price anywhere.
Yeah, so you need to
they
have the
don't
same
mind being
price.
less though, do they? I
No,
understood that.
Amazon wants to be the cheapest. They
Yeah,
don't want
Amazon
you
don't
to
mind
be
being less.
cheaper anywhere
They
else.
don't want to be more though.
But I
you
think
know.
the other platforms don't want you being less either. So I think they do all pay attention to each
I've
other.
never had that, but
No.
possibly. I've definitely been at different prices. I have had various prices.
Oh,
but
okay, all right.
Yeah, well,
I
sometimes you
could
do a
be wrong, but
promotion like through
yeah.
one of the other platforms and you don't change it on Amazon. And I've never actually had an issue with that. I know that they don't particularly like it, but I mean, if it's for just a few days, then I actually, I mean, by the time you get the price through from Amazon, you could have missed your window if it's just one of those, things.
Yep.
Okay.
If it's like
I think the disclaimer on all of this is when you're signing up and loading your books on Kindle and onto Amazon, read all the documentation there.
There's a lot.
There's a lot, but you're in business. When you put something up for sale, you're a business, so you should be reading what you're agreeing to when you use, no matter who you're using. You should know that.
Yeah, that is true. That is true, because they certainly don't like you giving away free books elsewhere.
No, they don't.
It's not free on their platform.
Exactly. And you absolutely cannot sign up to be exclusive to Amazon and tick the box that you're exclusive and then go and load it on somewhere else. You can't do that. You've got to stay within your exclusive period. So don't try and
your account.
Don't try and get away with anything shifty. Just play by the rules and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Alrighty. So the next platform that we're talking about is Apple. So this is where you've decided to go wide. You've unchecked your exclusivity. You're available for everywhere as far as Amazon is concerned. So you put your books up at Apple. Now, one of the recommendations that I had through the Wide for the Win group that Erin Wright works on is to use the aggregator Draft to Digital to go onto Apple. So you don't have to do that. Like that was just a recommendation that I had, and I do that. You can go direct to Apple, but it can be a bit confusing, is my understanding, to load. And you can get promotions through Draft to Digital as well as when you go direct. So in my experience, that's worked really well for me. I don't know about you, Sharon, Wendy. Have you got?
I use my aggregator for Apple. In fact, I use
too.
my aggregator for everything apart from Amazon. I go to Google Play and I also go to Kobo.
Okay. Yeah.
I load everywhere myself except for Apple.
Mm.
And then
So
there
Apple,
you
there you go, different for everyone. Apple doesn't sell print books. Am I right with that? Yes. I get a bit confused about who sells print books in audio and who doesn't. So, correct me if I get that wrong. So Apple doesn't sell print books, and they have a slightly higher tolerance for higher prices of books. So this is the platform where you want to have higher prices if you're going to do that.
They sell in more countries too, I think, don't they, Apple?
We've got that more than 50 countries, according to the So more than like Amazon doesn't sell in as many countries, although I'm not sure what the numbers on Amazon are, but and I do quite well in terms of book sales on Amazon.
Apple?
Pardon? On Apple, sorry.
Did you say on Apple you do well? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do okay. It's definitely a better platform. I think Apple is supposed to be, they do like fantasy on Apple, and I think they look quite like romance, according to my I don't know. What are your guys' experiences on Apple? How do you find it?
My kids' mysteries are doing quite well there. Yeah.
Apple's my second biggest.
Yeah.
Definitely from Amazon. I mean, nothing will beat Amazon for me. I mean, for other people, I've heard other people say that Apple overtakes Amazon, but hasn't for me yet. But no, it works well.
Yeah, that's tricky.
For me, I find that using an aggregator, I find that, and going specifically to 3 other platforms, I find that everything else kind of equals what I earn on Amazon. So that, I thought that was actually quite an interesting comparison.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. So it says here that according to Dan Wood, Draft to Digital executive, that Apple seems to have captured a much younger crowd, which I thought was quite interesting. So
Mm.
younger
Oh,
audience.
really?
And I
Yeah.
like, for example, I mean, not that I'm a younger audience necessarily, but you know, someone who has all of the Apple gear, like I've got, you know, the
Yeah.
iPhone and the
Mm.
computer and I'll read on my phone, and you know, like I can
Mm.
kind of see that techie kind of younger audience, they're used to paying a bit more money, and they're used to just being up to with all the latest
yeah.
advancements and things like that.
And all
So
the Apple, all the iPhones now have the app on it, don't they? The
Mhm.
book app.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Come with
so
it,
it's
yeah.
there automatically. You don't have to
Mm.
download it like you do the Kindle app and that, you know. So I suppose
Exactly.
that's another
So
side of things that has to have
Mm.
promoted that slightly, I would think.
yeah,
Mm.
exactly. So
Yeah.
Apple, good platform. We all kind of use it. We just
Yep.
mostly go through Draft to Digital rather than direct. So that's a thing. Anything else to add for Apple?
I don't think so.
Mm.
I know.
No.
So the next one we've got is Kobo.
Mm.
I don't tend to sell an awful lot on Kobo. Like, I don't know whether I
Mm.
just haven't put enough into it, or I don't know what it is. I'm just not doing as well on Kobo. I don't know about you guys, but what do
I find
you?
it quite difficult to get the promotions on Kobo, even though
Yeah.
I apply quite religiously for them. It's not that I
Yeah.
don't get any, but I certainly don't get anywhere near as many as I ask for, and I probably only do like 1 or 2 a month. But yeah, it's probably my least performing platform.
Yeah.
But I'm sticking with it for now.
Yeah, I mean, the people from Kobo that we've dealt with have always been awesome. Like,
So lovely.
and they're so
lovely.
dedicated
really
to
good.
Yes.
books and
Yeah.
being part of the
Mhm.
environment and promoting authors. So, you know,
Mm.
always happy to deal with those
Yeah,
guys.
Kobo
And
is probably because they've got Kobo Plus as well, which is they've got
A
a
subscription
subscription
service,
service
yeah.
as well. Plus, you can load your audio books directly to Kobo as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
Which we do. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's probably next to me for Apple. It's below Apple, and then Barnes and Noble below
okay.
that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's the thing is, I think everyone but Amazon's an easier platform to navigate. I feel that's just me. And the helplines are great too. You know, like the service they offer is great.
Is that your real people there?
Yeah,
at the
and
end,
so
not
it's
a
well,
chatbot.
Amazon's so big, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But I've really haven't had a problem with Kobo. They've been good. You know, for
What
loading
was
and stuff. It was fairly.
What was intriguing to me was realizing that they don't do keywords on Kobo. And
Mm.
I'm assuming that
Yeah.
they use, like kind of Google Play does, they'll use the keywords from your blurb and your title and your subtitle and things like that to gather that kind of metadata. But all of the other platforms, they do ask you for your keywords, and those guys don't. So I don't know what the difference is there, but it was intriguing that was a big difference. And the other big difference is that Kobo Plus is not exclusive, so you can be part of Kobo Plus and be a part of everything else. So which is because I think they are not that keen on the whole exclusivity idea. They want us to be able to go across all the different platforms, which is again a really cool thing. So I don't know, do we have any kind of advice or things for Kobo other than
No, I don't think so. I mean, yeah.
Keep applying for promos.
Keep applying for those. You never know. You might get them. But they're not easy to get though.
No.
You know, they're really not. I've only had a few
Yeah.
in my lifetime. But no.
Okay. All right. Next
Barnes
one
and Noble.
is Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
Which is probably the one with the smallest market share. Am I right in that?
Yeah.
And they kind of have gotten smaller and smaller over time, and have been through some, I guess, problems along the way. Like at one point, it sounded like they were almost going to go out of business, and then
It did.
they didn't. But it's and they are one.
And,
sorry.
They don't demand exclusivity either. But Amazon's the only one who does that.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
and it used to be that because we were in New Zealand, we couldn't load direct, but we can now. So I load direct to them. I don't know why. I just do. There was no real rhyme or reason other than this idea.
No reason.
Yeah, just that I do.
Maybe advertising. I can't remember.
Do you advertise through them? Because I
think you can. You've got to get
direct.
hold of them, don't you, and get the advertising tab put on your dashboard.
It says that they have the ability to create author pages, run promotions, and participate in the Barnes and Noble affiliate program. So it wouldn't be open to me, but would be open to you guys.
Print on demand. I think Barnes and
Yes.
Noble have that too.
Yeah, so that you
Um,
get print books via Barnes and Noble,
yeah.
which is
Mhm.
good. It's
Mm.
that's one of the other platforms that you can get print through, so that's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, again, I do better on Barnes and Noble than on Kobo, to be honest.
Me too. Me
which
too.
is
And
which is
I'm
interesting.
through an aggregator, so it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
yeah.
You
That's
just don't
interesting.
know. You don't know. And I think it can be genre specific, I think, you know, and it's very different from Amazon, right? It's if you sell more books, you know, like, I mean, I think, what did we say? We had someone telling us Amazon's algorithm based and these other ones not so much. Is that?
No,
Was
it's
that
that
right?
it's that Amazon rewards newness. So your books,
That's it.
you know, the whole 30-day cliff and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So it likes the new books, whereas all the wide platforms, their algorithms are different, and
That's
that they
it, yeah.
reward longevity. So the longer you're on the platform, the more likely you
Yeah.
are to be recommended and shown. So, and that's the main difference between all those platforms. So it's interesting to
So wide is the long game, really. That's
It really is,
that's the
yeah.
short story. And I've noticed that too, because I haven't been wide for that long, and I've noticed that's definitely the income started to climb the longer I've been on there.
yeah.
And that's with your contemporary romance, isn't it, Wendy?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So it is interesting. And the other thing with Barnes and Noble, and I don't know if it's quite the same now, but it always used to be that you'd say, you know, you could sort of maybe get away with a lesser cover on Amazon, for example, like, you know, you could, but on Barnes and Noble, for example, because they were a traditional bookstore, you always wanted to look like you were a traditionally published book. And I mean, it's less of a problem these days because I think you have to look like you're a professionally published book to get anywhere in self-publishing these days. But just that's the background for Barnes and Noble. So as long as your covers look good, and you've got, you know, a nice awesome blurb and all that kind of stuff is looking good, then there's no reason why that you couldn't sort of start to see sales on Barnes and Noble. That's what I'm trying to say.
So out of those big sort of Apple, Kobo, and Barnes and Noble, this is probably the one that doesn't have as big a reach. Is that the way you see Barnes and Noble?
So,
it's only in the US actually. All the others are international. So that for a start,
limited distribution compared to the others. So I haven't actually used the support setup, but I don't know what that's like. But
no, I've not really done an awful lot in terms of that with them, so we can't really talk to that. But so the last platform that I think we're going to talk about is Google Play. So although we could also talk about, like, for example, Radish. I think Wendy's on Radish, so she could mention a few things for that. But so Google Play, I always remember back in the day that people used to complain about it and say, oh, and it price matches and it's got weird numbers for you end up with these weird numbers for your prices for books. But honestly, I love Google Play. I think it's my
I do too.
favorite platform, and I do really well on it. And I'm always kind of surprised when I look in there. I'm like, oh, that's good. I've made some money today. You know, like it's kind of, and it's easy to sort of read, and it's I don't know. They apparently, like, so I did the Wide for the Win course with Erin Wright, which I would recommend actually to anyone who's wanting to do a wide and wants to learn a bit more about the different platforms. And she talks about some of the different things that you can do to kind of amp up and set up your account for success, essentially, and how just Google Play is a little bit different to the other platforms in terms of how they do the metadata and things like that. And so one of the things that they don't, did they have keywords? I feel like they didn't have keywords yet. So they don't have keywords.
But they have a lot of categories that you can put them in.
So that's interesting. And then they definitely use the book title and the book subtitle and the blurb for their metadata. So you've got to really think through what you're doing, not just a really good blurb, but a blurb that uses, you know, the tropes and, you know, has some good keywords in there that people are going to be searching for, because that's how they do it. And they're also apparently the only platform that searches across the web for you rather than just on the platform themselves. And it makes sense because it's Google, right? Like, so they have access to search the web pretty easily. And so they use the wider web search as well as the search. So for them, it's really good for you to have a presence elsewhere. So for Google Play, if you're doing book tours on different blog posts, I mean, that's going to help you on Google Play. So that is an example of when doing one of those book tours is a good thing. I'm not sure it's good for any other purpose, but it's good for that. So that's something really interesting.
Sorry.
I was just going to say it, and it's also on the phones, right? It's on the Android phones, the same as the Apple
Yeah, so it's the
But
one
they
that
also have
people...
a really good promotions tab there, and you can promote bundles, which is really awesome. So you can have a selection. They can go in and they can get, say, book 1 and 2 in a bundle, or they can get the first 3 books, or if you've got more than that, I think you can have like 3 choices in your bundles that they can choose to maybe get like the whole series. And that's really been a money spinner for me, and also price promotions. The thing about these guys, it's them and Kobo, and Barnes and the aggregator, Draft Digital. You can go in and you can schedule your price promotions, so you get all those in order, and then like if it was a free book or something like that, and then you go to Amazon. And you have to make sure that it's all done on those other platforms, that it's actually live on those other platforms, and then Amazon will price match it. And that's such an easy thing to do. I have a little a 1-page form with all the ASINs of the book that I want to do, and I just send through a little note to Amazon, and they're so good. They're so good with that. If you give them the right information and you speak really nicely, it really
and you
works.
offer to name your firstborn child after them.
So is that just for a short-term promotion share, or is that for
It
when
can
you're
be a
doing
short-term promotion
perma-free?
or perma-free? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
intriguing.
they just Amazon just need to know that the books are at that price that you said you want it for on Amazon.
And do you tell them that it's short term when it's a short term one, or do you say then you have to go back to them and say, I want you to take it off that price, it's gone up everywhere?
Yeah, I never ever give them the dates of the promotion. I then go back into Amazon and change it, because this is me being a little bit skeptical. It worries me that they will muck up the dates.
Yeah, exactly.
So this way I know that it's going to be free when it's free on the other ones, and then when I know it's coming off, I have a note in my diary and I go back to Amazon, and you don't contact them, you just go back into your dashboard and change the price.
Yeah. So that's how you end up with a free book on Amazon, because you can't set the price to free. It has to do it by what.
And that's why if you're
price
exclusive with
matching.
Amazon, you can only for 5 days. You have that 5 days free, and that's it. You can't go perma-free on Amazon if you're wide.
And it's
If you're
5 days
exclusive.
free, 5 days free in a 90-day period, isn't it? Which isn't a lot.
And if you use those 5 days free, then you also can't use a Kindle countdown promotion, which is where you can set the book to 99 cents and then view it up as time goes by, which I think is now over 8 days, if I'm right. So you cannot use both of those at the same time in the same 90-day period. You can only use one, and then you have to wait.
Yes,
for
we
that
love them dearly, but they're slightly draconian with their
So that's one of the reasons I like being wide, is the ability to have perma-free books, like having my first in series books perma-free. I love it, and I get loads of downloads. It's kind of it's a really good place to start for me, and it offers a.
Well, I think targeting a series like a month or every couple of months or whatever, then you can use all of those price promotions through everywhere when you're wide. It's not just relying on those 5 free days if it doesn't suit you. Like say if you get a BookBub ad or something like that, but you've already used your 5 free days, you're kind of screwed. So it's there's that.
There's that too.
Is that so? Actually, the one platform we haven't talked about is Draft to Digital, because that's the aggregator where you can go to them and they will you put your book and your details up on their site, and then they will forward it on to all of their other sites, and that gets you access to those main ones that we've just talked about, but also the international ones like Tolino and Viblio and
so many other platforms. And
like Overdrive, those kinds of the library platforms, those kinds of things. Hoopla. Don't even know what Hoopla is. I just know that my book goes there. I should probably know.
Sometimes I get a little bit of money from them.
I think Hoopla might be a library one too when I think about it. But so that one, and they're really easy to deal with. Again, awesome people. They're really helpful, really responsive if you've got issues.
They've got good resources on that page.
So because I was having issues with print books, so I had print books via Amazon, and I had ticked expanded distribution, which meant that they'd put them at Barnes & Noble and other places. And then when I decided to go wide, I unticked that, but those books are still up with an ISBN number on various places. And then that means that now that I'm going to put print books up on the various platforms, it makes it harder to do that, and it is not. They're not very happy about that, because, and I'm pretty sure I'm right about this, and I don't understand why it's like this. So if anyone knows and is listening to this, but you have a different ISBN for each of the platforms for your print books. So you have Barnes and Noble have one ISBN, Drafted Digital wants a separate ISBN, Amazon wants a different one. So you kind of can't. So you have to have lots of different ISBNs, basically.
Very confusing.
And that's the beauty of an aggregator, because you only have to have one.
Just don't tick the expanded distribution on
thing is,
Amazon.
I'm gonna say, so somebody,
if you've got an aggregator like Drafted Digital and you want to load your book 3 times to them, you can. So take, for example, if you want to have one book and you want to have 3 different listings on Drafted Digital, one can go straight direct to Apple, one can go to Kobo, one can go to all the others, and then you can just change the price on the one for Apple, or you can change. It's a lot more work, but the options are there if you're with an aggregator, that you can have those 3 listings and operate them as 3 separate books, even though they're the same.
Have you done
why
that?
would you do that though? You can't
if you didn't want to price change all your
Oh,
books,
I
you
see.
just wanted to price change
I'm
them
with
for
you.
Apple,
Right.
then you can just do them for Apple. You know,
That's-
so it's just a trick for young players, that if you wanted to
I'm with you.
load your book more than once, you could, and then just
Got you.
I
you
didn't
know?
know that, actually, but it
Yeah.
makes sense, because when you do put in a price promotion in Drafted Digital, which is incredibly easy to do, of course it is for whatever platforms you've taken.
I'm with you.
That's right.
Okay.
So you could just have one specific for Apple, or, you know, whatever you wanted. Yeah.
So going back to print books, your recommendation would be load a print book onto Amazon yourself, but just do it for Amazon distribution only, and then go through Drafted Digital and load it for expanded distribution. And can you untick the Amazon on Drafted Digital if you do it? Like, how do you?
You
Okay.
don't go
Yeah.
to Amazon.
I don't
We're
go.
nodding.
I don't
Yeah,
go through
you can.
Amazon Drafted Digital, because you can't do it both. It's
Right.
like with Kobo, you
Yeah.
can't do it both. You've got to choose either
Gotcha.
go to Kobo or do it through the aggregator.
Okay.
With all of
Good
them,
to
I
know.
should imagine. Yeah.
Okay. Just clarifying for anybody new.
So there's lots of little tips and tricks that you kind of figure out along the way.
So many.
So
I
many.
mean, how many years have we been in this, and we're still
I'm still a
learning
bit
stuff, and we're all going,
I'm
like
sure
Cheryl said, I didn't know that. Of
I
course,
didn't know
you know,
that.
like,
I didn't know
yeah,
that.
you know what I mean? Like,
I didn't know it either.
just even now we're still like, oh, right, but didn't know that, you know. And
That's why we
Which is-
podcast.
and we know everything, right?
Which is why it's good to go into groups like Wide for the Win. And if I came up, like when I came up against that whole thing of needing a new ISBN for each of the different platforms, I was like, why? That makes no sense to me. Like,
No, it makes no sense to me either.
One. And but I went on there and I checked, and that was what people were saying. You know, different ISBN for different platforms, and I guess that's what you do. But it's and it may be just
And they're
because
always
I
changing
ticked.
too.
Yeah, and it might be because I ticked the expanded distribution and that messed it up. So if you,
I think they probably did, actually. But I don't have different ISBNs in Drafted Digital, so you don't have to. It's just what Wendy's saying is for practical reasons, if you want to change pricing on different platforms. But because I go wide to a couple of 3 others, then what I do in Drafted Digital is just making my life easier. So what Wendy's suggesting is like,
100%.
No.
But I guess the other way to look at that is, if you didn't want to go to each platform, you could just load 3 separate books to Drafted Digital. One to Kobo, one to Barnes and Noble.
Yes.
Because you might have different information on them. You might have links directly to
different
your
links.
Kobo
Well, the thing
books.
is, if you were Apple specific, you would just have Apple links in the back.
And maybe that's what you want, and you can't do that as a generic file on Drafted Digital. You'd have to have generic links.
Just wanted to also point out that the disadvantage of going through an aggregator is that they do take a clip of the ticket, so you are paying them a percentage of the sales.
It's a middleman, isn't it?
So they've got to earn their money and keep the lights on too. So
But the good thing about them is that they don't take any money if you don't make sales. They only take the money once you're making sales, and so it's in their best interest to help you make sales. So I guess that's why they're so helpful.
Exactly.
For me, it's like hiring an assistant. You know, if it saves you time, that does save you money in one respect. So for me, it's definitely a time saver.
And when you're first starting out, right, you want it to be,
my gosh,
unless you're a tech savvy person, which trust me, I was not. you know, you really want to keep it very simple so you don't get disillusioned. So start small and then grow, you know,
and
that's
maybe learn
it.
one at a time, eh?
Yeah.
And sometimes
unless you're incredibly techie and it just
and go
falls in your
and,
lap,
I would love your brain, but it's not happening, you know. Yeah.
Some of
Awesome.
us, it takes a bit longer.
I think
Nice
unless you
work.
want to do a couple of words on Radish, Wendy. I mean, I've never used it, so I don't.
I don't know that I would be able to add a lot. I mean, I only have one. I have 2 books on there, but they were just testers for me. I think Radish, I feel like Radish is more of a saucy. It makes me sound like 109 years old, but it's more of a spicier
Because it's a serial platform, right? You put a
it's a
chapter up.
serial platform. So I did 2 tests. One was a spicy book and one was a not as spicy book, and the spicy book definitely did better. And they wanted more of it, and I hadn't written more. It was a very short story, so I had to disillusion them all with that. So yeah, I mean, I really contemplated that it would be worth my time putting all my books on there, but I'm not so sure. But I know they do audio now too, and I think that is going quite well from what I can gather. It's just another platform that I had a look at, and maybe I'll go back to it one day, but like I've just got so much to do, like we all have. It was just a tester.
I think that's it. Things are coming up, right? There's new platforms out. I mean, we talked about the big ones, but there's always new ways to sell, whether it's on a serial or a subscription platform.
There's
lots
YouTube
around
as well, isn't there, Shah?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
So
a lot of people are putting their audiobooks on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is, if you get in the early days in the infancy, you hit the wave, and I think things then level out a bit more, and it becomes more of a level playing field. And I feel like Radish is possibly like that. I don't know. It's definitely serialized though. That's how it works.
Yeah. Which is a different way of writing for people, and some authors, their style and their.
I couldn't be handling the pressure of having to.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure, right? You gotta, We've had Amelia Rose on the podcast talking about subscriptions for authors and her platform, which was Ream, but it's the same sort of principle. You're delivering a story in bites. You know, it's for people that are often commuters reading on their phone, so they want, something short and hooky and spicy.
All of that. Spicy,
awesome. Well, I feel like we've talked as much as we can on each of the different platforms and given you an overview, a general kind of hopefully helpful bit of advice to get you going and maybe make some decisions on how you're going to do it and how you're going to go for the different platforms. But where can we be found, Shah?
We can be found at sparkgirlspodcast.com.
I've got a cold. I don't know if you
I've just got sorry about the voice. It's because I've been shouting at these guys too much. And we're on patreon.com at Sparkgirls Podcast.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I'll stop you there. And thank you to all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Sparkgirls Podcast. We will be back again next week with another episode. But for now, farewell.
Bye.
Bye.